I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you a stranger and take you in, or naked and clothe you? Or when did we see you sick or in prison and come to you? And the king will answer and say to them, Assuredly I say to you, inasmuch as you did it to one of the least of these, my brethren, you did it to me.
Good morning. It's good to see all you here today. If you were here for Sabbath school, you got a good secretary's remark this morning. I always enjoy Carl's, but I enjoyed his remarks this morning that he had. The only thing I had took a little bit of disagreement with was with regards to the snow. If you didn't hear, you weren't here, he said that his wife was was desiring just to have some snow this winter, and she was wanting 6 to 8 inches, and so Carl prayed that God would answer her desire, her needs, and 3 or 4 days later, we got our big snowstorm here a while back. So Carl, the only thing I would ask is next time your wife desires for some snow, why don't you take her to Colorado, perhaps? Have you ever seen, maybe you've seen it on the internet or whatnot, you've seen where those little things that may come up and say, what happened on this date in time before? Well, I'm happy to say that 26 years ago today, Nancy and I brought home a 9-pound, 3-ounce Eaton crying diaper filling machine. Brianna's birthday was yesterday, and my aunt and uncle, they also had a child on the same day and named him Michael Norman Morlone, if I'm not correct. So happy belated birthday to you as well, Mike. And today, Sarah Pope, Laurie and Larry had a daughter. So we have several in our congregation that are celebrating. And I think 5 days from now, we got Loris had a birthday, or has one coming up. So Lord is good. I'm glad to see each one of you, and hopefully he'll continue to bless you in this coming year as well. Now, I may have told you this story before. It's happened, though, I'm going to say probably 6, 7 years ago, perhaps. But I had taken my lunch break, and it's always so difficult to know where to go. I mean, when you go to lunch, you always go to the same old place. And I've got to the place the last few months where I just stay in the office and I'll have something in my desk that I'll snack on. But at this time, I actually went to McDonald's. Now, being somewhat of a vegetarian, I don't eat red meat, or at least I've chosen not to, so I always have a fish sandwich. So I'm sure I was eating a fish sandwich and French fries, because that's all I would ever have gotten at McDonald's. But I was sitting there enjoying my lunch, and all of a sudden I noticed out of the corner of my eye, there was 2 other individuals in there. We were kind of scattered out in the McDonald's that we were eating there. And out of the corner of my eye, I noticed someone walking slowly up to the door and was going to be coming in, it appeared. And this individual was dressed in clothes that were dirty and ragged. Their hair was pretty matted. You can tell that they had really not had the opportunity to take care of themselves in some time. He came in the door, and he went to the first individual. I could tell right there he was going to be asking them for something. So that individual brushed him off. He went to the second individual, and about that time my phone was laying in front of me, so I picked up my phone. And you could tell the other person also indicated, no, nothing that they could do for them either. Well, he came over to my area, and I said, I'm on the phone. And he stood there. And so I went, mm-hmm. And pretty soon my phone rang. You believe it? What are the odds? My phone rang. Yeah. So I asked the gentleman, I said, what do you need? He said, I'd like something to eat. So we went up to the counter. We got him a meal, and he went on his way. But I don't tell you that story to boast that I bought the man a meal. I tell you that story because I'm ashamed that then and now that I didn't buy him a meal to begin with. Proverbs 21:13 reads, whoever closes his ear to the cry of the poor will himself call out and not be heard. There's times that we feel this compelling need to help someone when we see someone in need. And then sometimes we find ourselves looking for a way to avoid, or even finding ourselves going out of our way to avoid an individual. Let me ask you, have you ever been pulling up to a light and ahead you can see when someone's there standing along the corner on the road? We see it quite often anymore, and quite frankly, we see it in any city that we go to. Do you find yourself, and that they may be holding a sign that say, I need some food. My family needs food. Or, can you lend some money? It may say homeless. It may say that they're a veteran. The sign may say anything will help. And as you see that individual standing on the corner there and you still have a distance, you notice the light is green, and are you saying to yourself, or perhaps you're even saying out loud, stay green, and about that time the light turns yellow. You know you're not going to make it through that light without running a red light, so you're going to have to confront the situation. Well, if it's a double lane, do you pull over to the far lane? Do you pull in straight ahead, and when you get to the light, you either look straight ahead or you look off the other way so that you don't make eye contact? Or do you look up, see the individual, and roll down your window? You know, it's difficult today to tell actually who needs help and who needs a hand up and who is out there just looking to make an easy dollar. Jesus told us the poor will always be with us. In Matthew 26, we find Mary pouring expensive oil on Jesus' feet. Beginning in verse 8, when the disciples saw this, they didn't like it. In fact, they thought to themselves, this is a waste. We could have sold that oil and we could give it to the poor. And Jesus, knowing what they were thinking, he said to them in verse 10, why are you bothering this woman? She has done a beautiful thing to me. And in verse 11, he continues and says, the poor you will always have with you, but you will not always have me. Jesus tells us that we will always have the poor, and they will be with us. In Deuteronomy 15, 7 through 11, if among you one of your brothers should become poor, anyone in your towns within your land, which the Lord your God has given you, you shall not harden your heart or shut your hand against any of your poor brethren, but you shall open your hand and give to him, lend to him sufficient for his need, no matter what it may be. Verse 11, for there will never cease to be the poor in the land. Therefore, I command you, you shall open wide your hand to your brother, to the needy, and to the poor in the land. Now, while Deuteronomy is telling us that we should open our hands and our pocketbooks and our volunteering abilities and give to our brothers that are in need, the poor that are in our land and in our community, is there a balance to be had? For you see, Paul commanded the Thessalonians in 2 Thessalonians 3:10 that if any will not work, neither let them eat. This verse seemingly is obviously clear. It means that if the people are unwilling to work, that we shouldn't be giving them food. Perhaps in Paul's time, there were people that are like some that we see today standing on the corner, asking for assistance when assistance perhaps is really not needed. However, I would pause and say, who am I, without this undisputed evidence, who am I to question when a brother or a sister is asking for assistance as if it is genuine? While we desire to assist the poor and the needy, we sometimes struggle to truly know who is in need. And other times it's quite obvious. It reminds me of an individual that went to the doctor. They said, "Doctor, it hurts." "Oh, it hurts so bad, doctor. I can hardly stand it. It hurts so bad." And the doctor says, "Well, where does it hurt?" And the individual says, "It hurts here, and it hurts here, and it hurts here, and here, and here." And the doctor stopped and says, "Well, I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is I know why you're hurting. And the bad news is your finger's broken." You know, sometimes it's obvious as the nose on our face or the broken finger in that illustration that there are people that we can help. It's obvious, but what do we do? Do we turn aside and turn away, or do we assist? Before I go much further, I would like to say that the Bible points out and is very clear on the aspect that family should not go neglected. Paul's writing to Timothy in 1 Timothy 5:8, "But if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for the members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever." The verse is telling us that a person should consider the needs of his own family and make arrangements to meet them for those individuals in need in my family. And if a believer does not provide for his own, he is in such a way that his life does not match what he professes to believe. A hypocrite, saying one thing and doing another. Now let's take it one step further. One's family can and should extend into our church family, should it not? And in Galatians 6:9 and 10, it points out very clearly, "And let us not grow weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap, if we do not lose heart." And verse 10, "So then, as we have the opportunity, let us do good to all men, and especially to those of the household of faith." So I thought to myself this week, what are some things that we can do to assist our fellow man? Yeah, we can give them money. But what are some things we can do? Here are some that I wrote down. One, one of the better ways to help the poor and the needy is to give them a hand up rather than a handout. Giving them moral support, showing heartfelt humility and respect, makes them feel aware that someone really does care about them and is trying to improve their condition. By providing them the opportunities to improve their condition on their own will increase their self-esteem, and it will help them overcome the barriers that they face every day. Work with the poor and the needy people to help them discover their own capabilities, and allows them to see their capabilities of putting themselves to use at the right time and at the right place. Support them and let them know that they have something of value which can be used for meeting their own basic needs and requirements. 2, provide nutritious meals to the poor and the needy. Donating perhaps a few groceries can help end hunger to a poor and needy individual. Some cannot even afford a single meal for themselves, let alone their entire families. Some can. So what can we do to assist in this type of situation? Well, rather than wasting food and throwing it out, perhaps we take some of what we have, some of the extra, and we give it to a needy person. 3, by collecting and providing clothes, books, blankets, and other necessities, one can help the poor and the needy. In order to help those in need, one can donate our unused stuff, from clothes to appliances to furniture and other materials. Perhaps we need to rummage through our closets and our garage, looking for belongings that we can give away that we haven't used for a while but are in still good condition. Sorting through our unused stuff and donating them does help the poor, and it makes a difference to those that are in need of such items. Donating clothing, for example, in the wintertime, when it's so cold, is a great opportunity to pass something along to those in need. Our unseen and unused items can be donated to brighten someone else's day. Number 4, volunteering time and skills to help the poor and the needy. Creating awareness among ourselves for helping those in need can get more and more individuals to join in on an important opportunity. Groups can be formed to help those in need. We can buy meals, we can give them a ride to a shelter, and other necessary assessments. Volunteers can help teach them. Volunteers can help in arranging health fairs or health camps. Doctors can be invited to treat the poor and the needy. Even the smallest efforts count. By sparing just a few hours a week and doing even the smallest bit, possibly can do great wonders for the poor. Also, one can encourage our friends and our neighbors and our family and church members to join in such a noble cause. Number 5, understand the needs and the requirements of the needy. Help them overcome the adversities of life. One can help by understanding their wants, their desires, and their thoughts without diminishing their dignity, and helping them to achieve those wants in a respectable manner. Also, one should treat such people with respect and understanding. This will make a huge difference in their lives. Give them the same respect and courtesy that you would give a friend or a family member. Respond to them with a kind word and a smile. Number 6, imparting knowledge can help an individual to stand on their feet. Education is the beginning of getting them out of a hardship of life. Providing education to the poor and needy people will help them grow as individuals, can help themselves to lead a better life. Education can help them get a job, become employed, build a career, and achieve success, allowing them the capability of handling problems and lead a successful life. The poor and the needy become independent, self-sufficient through the power of education. And through education, we can help people to develop their skills so that they can overtake and provide the efforts to revitalize their lives rather than always depending on the outsiders to assist them to do so. And finally, number 7, and the most important, and it's not lengthy, it's very short and concise. Recognize and understand that while earthly needs are important, we should place a priority on each individual's spiritual needs. I'd like to read to you from the testimonies to the church on this subject. Now, when I was looking through, I found several passages in the testimonies to the church regarding how we can assist the poor and the needy. But I'd like to read from you from volume 6, page 88 and page 189. Those parts of those 2 pages. The question will often arise, what can be done where poverty prevails and is to be continued at every step around us? Until these circumstances, how can we impress minds to correct ideas for improvement? Certainly the work is difficult, and unless the teachers and thinking men and women and the men and women who have means will exercise their talents and will lift, as Christ would lift, were he in their place, an important work will be left undone. The necessary reformation will never be made unless men and women are helped by the power outside of themselves. Those who have talents and capabilities must use their gifts to bless their fellow men, laboring to place them upon a footing where they can help themselves. It is thus that the education gained in our schools should be put to its very best use. God's entrusted talents are not to be hid under a bushel or under a bed. Ye are the light of the world, Christ said in Matthew 5:14. As you see families living in hovels. Now, I didn't know what a hovel was, and probably some of you educated people here do, so I had to look that one up. Do you know what a hovel is? It is defined as a small, unpleasant, or simply constructed dwelling. As you see families living in hovels, with scant furniture and clothing, without tools, without books, or other marks of unrefinement about their homes, will you become interested in them and endeavor to teach them how to put their energies to the very best use, that they may find improvement and that their work may be moved forward? God is asking us to help others each and every day when we see someone in need. Luke 3:11. It tells us there, it's recorded where John the Baptist was saying when he was preaching in the wilderness, whoever has 2 tunics and you see someone with none, you should share. And whoever has food is to do likewise. And we read in as we read in Testimonies to the Church, Volume 6, men and women's talents should be utilized and not wasted. That is exactly as well what Jesus was referring to in Matthew 25:14 through 30, regarding the parable of the talents. I'm sure that's familiar to all of us. Each and every one, rich and poor alike, have been given talents. It is our obligation to put those talents to use. And should we not? Well, I believe that one day we will be held accountable. The poor themselves are not excused from benevolence, the act of showing kindness. You see, the poor are not excused from giving. Giving is a privilege. They, as well as the wealthy, may act in a part of this work. The lesson that Christ gives in regards to the widow's 2 mites shows us that the smallest willing offering of the poor, if given from the heart of love, are as acceptable as the large donations of the rich. In the balances of the sanctuary, the gifts of the poor, made from love for Christ, are estimated not according to the amount given, but according to the love which prompted the sacrifice in the beginning. 2 Corinthians 9:7. Each one must give as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. 1 John 3:17. But if anyone has the world's goods and sees his brother in need, yet closes his heart against that brother, how does God's love abide in him? Hebrews 13:16. Do not neglect to do good and to share what you have, for such sacrifices are pleasing to God. Do you desire to please God? Remember the rich young ruler recorded in Luke 18, verses 18 through 30? The rich young ruler came to Jesus wanting to know what could he do to have salvation. And Jesus responded, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. He went through some of the items there in the 10 Commandments. You should honor your father and your mother. And the young ruler looked up at Jesus and says, I have done all of those since my youth. And Jesus responded to him in verse 22. And when Jesus heard him say this, Jesus said to him, "One thing you still lack. Sell all you possess and distribute the money to the poor, and you will have treasures in heaven. And come and follow me." Yet, that was seemingly too much of a task for that rich young ruler to do. Too much for him to give up. Yet, as he always has done, Jesus is our example. Jesus, the King of the universe, the ruler of everything, he gave it all up to come to this earth to become poor. Not only poor, but to be despised and to be hated. Christ, for our sakes, became poor, that we, through his poverty, might become rich. He made a sacrifice that he might provide a home for the pilgrims and the strangers in the world that were seeking for a new country, that were seeking for heaven. Shall those who are subject to his grace, who are expecting to be heirs of his immortality, refuse or even feel reluctant to share our homes with the homeless and the needy? Shall we, who are disciples of Jesus, refuse strangers to enter our doors? We are called to be ministers of Christ, ministering and learning and attending to others' needs. It is doing the Lord's work. When we minister, we are representing Jesus Christ and acting as his agents to watch over, to lift up, and to strengthen those around us. What it really comes down to is, where will you stand in the final judgment? A familiar passage that we all know, that Shelley read as our scripture reading today, found in Matthew 25, verses 31 through 46. When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, all the angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory, and before him he shall gather all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divides his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right, and the goats on his left. Then the king shall say unto them on his right hand, Come, ye blessed of my Father, and inherit the kingdom that is prepared for you from the foundation of this world. For I was hungry, and you gave me meat. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. And I was in prison, and you came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, Lord, when did we see thee hungry, and we fed you? Thirsty, and we gave you a drink? When we saw you a stranger, and took you in, or naked, and clothed thee? Or when we saw you sick, or in prison, and we came and visited you? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily, I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it to one of the least of my brethren, ye have done it unto me. My appeal to you this morning is, if you see someone in need, lend a hand. It doesn't have to be financial. That's the first thing that always comes to our mind. Someone wants money. Sometimes they need a friend. They need someone to talk to. Maybe they need help doing something. Find out what their needs is. In Hebrews 13, 1 and 2, it tells us, Let brotherly love continue. Do not forget to entertain strangers, for by doing so, some have unwittingly entertained angels. Could the needy soul on the corner, the homeless individual, the widow, the fatherless, could that stranger be an angel? Will Jesus say to you one day, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, you have done it unto me.
Turn in your hymnals to our closing song, 183. We're on your screens above. And let's all stand as we sing. I will